Hello everybody, welcome back into the delightful bit of chaos that is our upstairs studio. In the case of today's video, as we check all the gardens, it is the spider plant forest, and there's a bit of an interesting side note that goes along with that. So I figured today we'd start up here for a change. I don't normally show you the actual house plants, very vegetable focused, you have to forgive me for that. I like food. We all like food. Anyway, let's take a look at the spider plants and then we'll head through the levels down towards the dungeon pepper garden and etc., you know? So in previous years we had that sand dollar pepper here and it used to just sprawl out everywhere. The shop light has done a great job of growing sprawling pepper plants. But up here now we seem to have kind of a sanctuary of spider plants. I've got 4 in party cups there, and these are all just spreading out all over the place. We've got some delightful... Come on, focus, little camera. This camera is so ready for retirement. Got some delightful little flowers in here, though, that will eventually turn into the spider plantlets, and more cups will be required, and this forest will continue to expand. But what I find interesting is I planted these ones, and some of it was recycled from outside, and some of it was recycled from the worm bin, and clearly we have some sort of a nightshade popping up in that one. So we're going to take it back downstairs so I can kind of monitor that. And when a true leaf comes out, I'll know if we got a pepper or a tomato. If it's a tomato, I'll just cut it. If it's a pepper, well, I work hard for my pepper, so I'll probably find a way to try and keep it. But anyway, I'm most amused by this, so I thought I'd share it. Here's the spider plant that came back in after spending last summer outside. Still looks pretty darn happy to me. So I'd say there's a very good chance some of these others will be going out next summer as well. See if we can get them all to beef up like that. Why not, right? Anyway, next step would be the kitchen plants. So amongst the assorted plants in the kitchen, we have these spider plants in the lighthouse dressing jars. I think it's finally time for me to transplant these. They've suffered enough. Proven they can do it. That's all that really matters. Up here in the windowsill, dramatic lighting change as we glare from all that snow. Our Reaper seems to be doing fairly well here. Time to come downstairs for its weekly aphid bath. Actually, all 3 of these need to come downstairs for good old aphid shaking, so we'll move them down as we go. But otherwise, not too bad. Maybe a little dry. We can fix that easy enough. So I'll let those float and soak for now, and then dump that out when I'm done getting clips from the dungeon. Speaking of which, let's head on downstairs and see how things are doing there. And that brings us down here so we can see the houseplants growing in the basement garden. This pitcher plant is still doing surprisingly well. Found one back here that looked like, you know, it was a little sad, so I figured I'd take the chance, look down there, and this camera is not going to focus on it because that's just asking way too much of it. But there's definitely liquid down there that the plant has created on its own, and when I looked really closely, that liquid is filled with like dead fungus gnats and fruit flies and stuff. So the pitcher plant is finally doing what I bought it for. It's a miracle. I'm so happy. In the back of the shelf here we've got some of the flaming caddy cuttings. Not much growth there yet. But then we have the, I think it's probably a painter's trough or something, that I ended up putting some of those spider plants into. And this I also filled with some of the compost. We'll see, again, we have some very suspicious seedlings in here. Can't quite tell if these are going to be peppers or tomatoes, so I'm letting them grow for now. And when true leaves pop, and you know, I'll either cut them or transplant them, depending. I really don't need any tomatoes yet, but I will take any peppers I can get. Because, yeah, I struggle with peppers as it is, so if they're going to volunteer, I'll take them. Thinking of volunteer peppers, down here in our little shot glass size party cups, a lot of these little pepper starts seem to be doing pretty well. Some nice size on some of these leaves. Looks like I need to water most of these, and again, it's time for the trip over the fish tank for the aphid shake. Here we've got one of them that I transplanted into peanut butter jug. Again, did the peat moss in the net cup. We've got some roots coming out of there. That's awesome. And then I've just been dripping little bits of water from the dehumidifier into that. No fertilizer or anything for any of these plants yet. And yeah, you can see the roots that are developing on that. Here, let's move this coffee can pepper out here. It's got some pretty decent looking leaves on there. Now when we checked this last week, I believe, yeah, it had already started to put some roots out through. That's very impressive. I'm quite pleased with that. Looking forward to seeing how these two little experiments progress, because those little tiny 2-inch cups do not leave a whole lot of room. But how much room do they really need if it's all just dangling down into the water anyway? So, very curious to see what's going to happen with that. So as we come around, that brings us to the Darwin table, where the oregano is, this must be, I think, its favorite point in the whole room. It just does the best. Right under the end of this light. I guess I'm done moving it. This is where the oregano will stay. Parsley seems pretty happy now that I can water it on a regular basis. Funny how plants all seem to prefer being watered. Here we've got some of our volunteer tomatoes. This one looks more and more like it could be an indigo rose. It's got a bit of purpling going on there. More flaming caddy cuttings in the back. Mystery seedlings still yet unidentified. The Naga Viper seeds, nothing sprouting yet. Now, these are technically mystery seedlings, but I think they are Naga Vipers, because that's what I planted in there. That the mystery tomatoes came out of there, as did these 4. But if we look closely, or at least as closely as this camera will let us look, we can see the beginning of the true leaf coming out in that one. And its point to me says pepper. Zoom in here, how do we, can't really see that one. To the naked eye I can kind of see a point on that one as well, so it also says pepper. This one down here, yeah, I'm pretty sure that one is not going to make it. But whatever, I'll take the odds, you know, 3 is great. Over here I found a pack of kale seeds that I thought had gotten moist, so were probably garbage. I planted pretty much all of them. And it looks like some of them have decided to sprout for me, so fantastic. Never really a bad time to grow kale. I can feed it to the fish, I can feed it to the chickens, and, you know, I've been known to eat a fair bit of it myself. Got a spider plant down here, another one of the ones in just a lighthouse dressing container. This poor thing has had only water, no nutrients for so long. I can't believe it's still alive. It is so pale and sickly and skinny. It's coming on down for a transplant. This is the original flaming caddy from which all of the other cuttings have come. This was sitting in the living room under not the best light. And I don't think it really likes the terracotta pot. So I brought this down for a transplanting. We'll see how it does under the fluorescent. Maybe it'll be happier. The Red Demon. Alright, you may recall I was going to get rid of this last week. I took a look at it. And what do we have but new growth? So I gave it a massive trimming instead. And I think it's going to be okay. Again, we have volunteers. I was looking at these leaves, the true leaves coming in there. Please focus for me, little camera. And I'm inclined to think that is a pepper leaf. This one here, please focus. I'm also inclined to believe that is a pepper. So it's going to be a very interesting year for random peppers, right? Which is kind of what's going on with pepper seeds upstairs. All those ones from the dehydrator, I mean, I know they grew here, but beyond that I haven't got a clue what they are. These ones, on the other hand, are a pack of garden salsa peppers that I found. I thought I had already planted out all of my seeds for those. But it turns out there was still one remaining, and quite a few of these are starting to pop for me, so that'd be nice if they you know, carry on. We've got some paper lantern seedlings, or seeds. These went in a few days later, so hopefully we'll see some signs from them soon. Nothing but peat moss in there. I haven't fertilized. I haven't done anything. Just peat moss. I'm really trying to do it right this year. Here's to hope, right? So far out of 18 planted, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 of those garden salsa plants that are starting up. If I can get that kind of a seed rate going, who knows, maybe I don't need to be so fixated on the AeroGarden. So thinking of random pepper seeds and strange ways to sprout them, I've got a stack of 3 of the mini cups here, and well, I've got some pepper seeds in there that I've been soaking and draining, because this is one of the ones with the drainage holes in the bottom for my little tiny double cup setups. Letting the water go through. And yeah, these seeds come to us from basically a few peppers that I found dried and crusty and kind of moldy on the dungeon floor here. Totally random, no idea what they were. I'm guessing they're from when I did the Kentucky harvest thing, but beyond that, no clue. So if I get some sprouts out of that, great. It's that same sort of, if I were doing microgreens, this is how I might try and sprout them, so that's what I'm doing this time because nothing else works for me. Yeah, good times. Patience and volunteers, that works. Turn off the funky LED so we can take a look at these plants. I mean, it's a little shadowy, but at least the color spectrum's right. The sage is coming along pretty nicely, I'd say. Very impressed. And here we've got the rosemary. Oh, I need to get better lighting going on here as far as when I'm filming. But anyway, here we've got the rosemary. It seems to be pretty sturdy, not pulling out too easily. So I'm thinking that is actually rooted for me, which is fabulous. This oregano is clearly rooted for me, and I'm going to let them both just take up this whole planter. Hopefully they'll go all wild and chaotic like this mint on the right has done. I mean, we're all pretty familiar with this plant here. Cuttings gone wild, right? And then we saw where I did that massive harvest. It's already filling back in with green. It's getting on time to cut back that chunk there. I'll probably do that when I go feed the hens for tomorrow morning. Because really, I've got mint growing out my wazoo here, as it were. Still nothing planted in there, but I might plant some of that kale now that it's sprouting once it gets big enough that the roots will actually reach the water in there. Still haven't taken out this poor dark opal basil, nor this sweet basil here, but you know, as long as they're still growing, they're certainly not taxing the garden too much. The mint seems to be able to absorb any leftover nutrients that are in there, so yeah, so far this winter the aquaponic herb garden is going great. Last year I tried to overwinter 8 different peppers in here. Didn't go well at all. But this is just fine. Which I guess brings us to the overwintered part of this garden. Can't believe how well the mouse melon is doing over here. Such a vibrant green going on. I'm very impressed. But you know what's awesome? Look down at this little tomato. I was just griping last week. I don't think they're ever going to take any color. Wine, wine, wine. And what do you know? Ha ha ha. I get a dungeon tomato. It's tiny. I mean, literally smaller. Okay, maybe almost exactly the same size as my thumbnail. But either way, I sort of have a dungeon tomato. So that is absolutely awesome. My rosemary and a fabric planter there seems to be doing fantastic. I actually think it might like that spot better than being under the purple light that it was under before. And then what is that in front of it? That would be the Sugar Rush Cream. Seems to be transitioning to the fluorescent light fairly well. Sugar Rush Red here, we had some peppers that were not looking happy at all, so they pretty much all got pulled off. I'm a little concerned for the Sugar Rush Peach here. This has taken a very nasty turn over the last couple of days. There is still plenty of green growth going on in there, so I mean, I might need to just come through here, take off the dead stuff, and see what's left. But I'm a little concerned for that one. The hot lemon still got quite a few of the newer pods. They stayed on it. They're giving it a go. Lots of nice healthy indoor growth there, so that's not bad. Little Nepalese bell, I've kind of lost track of where its pepper was. I don't think it's doing well though. Well, now I know. See, there's another one back here I'm quite concerned with. This, in theory, was one of the red demons that I think might actually have been maybe crossed with a garden salsa, or, oh, look at that. Well, I guess that's coming up for the dehydrator. Yeah, clearly not a good sign for that pepper. MOA Scotch bonnet beside it looks pretty happy. The sage behind it looks great. And spider plant, well, Kel Surprise, of course the spider plant looks fine. So we're starting to see the beginning of maybe some fatalities going on with the overwintered garden. That is how it goes. I mean, this isn't necessarily a recommended garden practice anyway. There are lots and lots of people out there that will tell you this is a horrible idea to bring plants in because of all the pests and stuff that are in the soil. My house is so overloaded with the aphids already, I think it's a moot point. Doesn't really matter. They're already here. Here's an interesting one though. Speaking of the aphids caused me to take a really close look at this paper lantern habanero, and I decided to give it a major cutback just like I did on the red demon. And I can already see some signs of new growth. So that is fantastic. I would rather have a smaller plant trying to recover than a larger plant trying to recover. So on that note, there are a few of these that might just be getting trimmed down in the near future. Brings us back to the sand dollar here, you know, like these peppers are beautiful, but there's no leaves on this part of the plant, so I'd probably take those off at the first opportunity, but I'd like them to get some color first. They're such cute little UFO looking peppers. Very cool. Very much enjoy that pepper. Anywho, I think that's probably where we're going to wrap it up for today. Thank you guys so much for coming and hanging out with me over the course of the 2018 garden season, and hanging out with me as I try and deal with gardener's seasonal depression while I wait until summer to roll back around sometime around June. But considering winter started in October this year, I don't know if we're even getting a summer next year. I don't know. Everybody talks about global warming. Feels like a mini ice age to me. There's been some speculation on that too. But global weirdness, it is what it is. I'm off topic. Again, what a surprise. Anywho, like I was saying, thank you all for joining me, and I will see you in the next, well, random garden update. Otherwise, I'll definitely see you guys for sure next Sunday as we take another look at everything that's still growing on around here. Take care, everybody.